Welcome to the Elk Grove Unified School District Board of Education meeting today. The board did meet in closed session, and the board took the following action. Unanimous to adopt resolution number 15 to summarily dismiss a certificated employee pursuant to Education Code 44836. And also the board took action to approve the following appointments of administrators. Laura Ricks at principal at Monterey Trail High School, and Jennifer Avey, Director of Curriculum and Professional Learning. Is she back there? Huh? Yeah, congratulations. Today's meeting is being video recorded and will be available on the district YouTube channel. And blue cards are available at the table just outside to my right here. If anyone wishes to address the board, complete the card and give it to one of the staff members to my right. And make sure you indicate whether the matter you wish to address is on the agenda or not on the agenda. Okay, today's Pledge of Allegiance, I want to call on Mr. Jeffrey Harmon from McGarvey Elementary School, will be assisted by Mr. Forcina. And principal. Oh, and the family, come on up. Mike Golden is principal.
Mr. Harmon,
Right
go to the podium,
right
please.
in front there.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Mr. Forcina will say a few things about you.
Okay. Okay, good evening. Robert J. McGarvey Elementary School is honored to recognize Mr. Jeff Harmon as our education partner. Mr. Harmon and his wife Lisa have two very involved McGarvey Griffins. I was waiting for you. Their eldest son, Xander, is in the 4th grade. Youngest son, Orion, is in the 2nd grade. Both children are very talented writers and enjoy performing in musical theater. Mr. Harmon was involved early and often as a member of our opening committees, including our parent planning committee. This committee was responsible for developing the school mission, vision, and value statements, and with the criterion of important school partnerships, such as our parent-faculty organization. He is most proud of the incredible community carnival hosted by the PFO in our first year for families in McGarvey and Sunrise attendance areas. Next one is pretty big. Through his efforts, our parent organization has provided substantial support for VAPA programs. This includes funding 30 minutes of weekly music instruction for every class last year, bringing in partners such as School of Rock for our students, and hosting a family art night featuring an artist-led painting workshop for families to create beautiful works on canvas. Jeff recently wrapped up his 2nd year as president of the McGarvey PFO. He served our community well over these 2 years. His vision and leadership helped craft our school's foundations, resulting in a legacy upon which current and future McGarvey activities will be built. It is with this in mind that Robert J. McGarvey Elementary School recognizes and honors Jeff Harmon and his family tonight. Thank you.
If everybody could stand. Salute, and we'll pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, if you'd like to say any words, you can. We have something.
I just want to say that I really appreciate our Principal Golden and the great learning environment that he's created in just a few short years here at McGarvey Elementary. And it's a real honor to be involved, and it's a wonderful place to send my kids. I'm very happy to be able to do that and to do a small bit to assist the school in the great environment that exists there.
Gather around here, boys, for a picture. Put on your best smile. Yes. You got it? Stand there. Smile.
Thank you again. Okay, we have our high school representatives report, the first of this school year, and I want to invite up Monterey Trail High School.
All right. Good evening, Board President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. My name is Hannah Tai.
And I'm Valisha Prasad, and we are your student representatives from Monterey Trail High School. So as you know, most of the schools started their first day on Thursday, but us being the exceptional Mustangs we are, started our first day on a Saturday. This marked the beginning of a 3-day-long process, which we call Giddy Up. In this process, students are able to get a head start by getting their class schedules, talking to their counselors, getting a chance to buy spirit wear, ASB cards, class shirts, and for the first time, take their ID pictures.
Moving on to our actual first day of school, we had our Welcome Back rally, which consisted of performances from our cheer, band, and Impulse Dance Company. In addition, we incorporated games for both teachers and students. As for the best part of the day, also known as lunch, we had music playing, several games in the quads such as ladder ball, giant Jenga, ping pong, volleyball, and cornhole. In each class period, we discussed one of our 4 core values, which are respect, integrity, confidence, and community.
Speaking of community, last Tuesday was our back to school night, and this year we nearly doubled our attendance. While each teacher presented the requirements and expectations of their class, Mrs. Parrish, our site counselor, sold spirit wear. Vice Principal Magana helped parents log into Parent View. Our counselors talked about both students and parents, and ASB students served as tour guides.
Serving as a link career leader, we met up with our freshman class to get them familiarized with the campus and to meet up with students from their advocacy classes. Throughout the day, we did icebreakers, a campus tour, and a competition for the most spirited advocacy class.
As for the other classes, we held our Renaissance barbecue based on 4th-term grades from last year. A total of 68 Mustangs in the sophomore, junior, and senior class qualified for our first Renaissance by earning a 3.0 GPA or a 0.5 GPA increase.
Being a part of Class of 2020, our first class event was Senior Sunrise. Our senior class council set up breakfast and played music from a list of songs suggested by the seniors. Towards the end, we went out on the football field to take a class picture.
Moving to athletics, our varsity football team won their first 2 games against Sheldon and Spanish Springs with scores 42-14 and 47-7 respectively. Our girls volleyball team also won against Franklin 3-1. In addition, MT has introduced a new student section for supporting our Mustang athletes called Green Machine. This allows student involvement at games as well as increase of school spirits.
This school year, we collected club renewal forms before having our club rush. Typically, we have club rush and then collect club renewal forms. However, we decided to have it reversed, so clubs are encouraged to turn in their forms earlier, and ASB is able to have a look at the active clubs on campus.
Now for our upcoming events. Parent Lunch Day is on September 20th. This allows parents to come eat with their students, play games in the quad, and see the campus. Our annual ASB movie night is also on September 20th, for which ASB has created a poll to see what movie to play. Finally, our fall awards night is on October 14th, and we hope to see some of you all there.
And that concludes our speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Okay, Pleasant Grove High School.
Good evening, Board President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Miss Avalos. My name is Rishi Menon.
And my name is Haley Sanfilippo from Pleasant Grove High School, and we are honored to be here tonight.
Pleasant Grove High School has been off to a very productive and enthusiastic start. About 449 seniors, 486 juniors, and 516 sophomores qualified for Renaissance, which is an academic incentive program that rewards our students for all the hard work they achieved the previous semester. They receive awards such as free homework passes, Get What You Can passes, and final waivers.
Soon we will begin the process of sign-ups for our academic awards. Students with 3.6 GPA or higher qualify to be recognized with a certificate and lunch on September 18th.
Our senior Eagles have been having a fun and exciting year so far. They woke up early on August 15th to participate in our annual Senior Sunrise. There, seniors were given the opportunity to win free yearbooks, free senior ball tickets, and free spiritware. Our senior barbecue will be held September 5th, where all of our seniors enjoy their day off from academics and get to know each other a little better. Tomorrow, 100 senior barbecue leaders will be trained to lead the other 600 seniors in bonding activities led by guest speaker Keith Hawkins.
Our PGHS kickoff was hit the first 4 days of school, as to reinforce the 4 Bs: be safe, be respectful, be responsible, and be your best. We passed out a bracelet and stickers. If students are displaying the stickers or bracelet on Fridays, there are various prizes they can win at lunch all year long.
Our ASB class has been working very hard to make the 2019 to 2020 school year one to remember. Our back to school rally was held on August 23rd to welcome our students back and set the vibe for the rest of the year, where we had fun games such as Steal the Bacons, Hungry Hippos, and blindfolded musical chairs. We also had amazing performances by Soul Purpose, Cheer, and our PGHS band.
Club Rush will be held on September 11th, where approximately 50 clubs will be participating in recruiting new members all upcoming year. Our first food fair is held on October 3rd, where our clubs select delicious foods such as pizza, tacos, boba, and much more to help fundraise money to support all club activities throughout the year.
Our first Unity Day will be held on October 17th, where 140 of our Eagles will get together and spend a day getting to know each other and themselves better. The purpose of Unity Days are to reflect and realize that we are not alone, and we should all help unite as a school and community to better our world and those around us.
Our theater production auditioned for the play of Almost Maine on September 11th. It is comprised of 9 short plays that explore love and loss in a remote, mythical, almost town called Almost Maine. It shows November 1st. We would love if the board would come and witness our Eagles' amazing talent.
Pleasant Grove High School is about to be in homecoming mode. This year's theme is Disney. The themes for each class are as follows. The freshmen are Monsters, Inc., the sophomores are Toy Story, the juniors are Aladdin, and the seniors are based on the movie Up. On September 20th, we will hold our annual homecoming rally where we will announce who was voted to be in our royalty court through fun games, and we will also have performances by Soul Purpose, Cheer, and band. Our Eagles will be working long hours to complete all of the floats and organize all homecoming festivities. The parade will be held on Friday, September 27th, and the dance is the next night. We can't wait to start the dance right away.
Our women's volleyball team has won their first 2 matches, defeating Whitney and El Camino in highly competitive matches. We are expecting another run to the playoffs for our volleyball team. Our women's golf team has started their season off strong and has already won their first match. And last but not least, our varsity football team has won their first 2 games by convincing scores and is now ranked 20th in the Sacramento Bee. Our Powder Puff games are September 25th, where we will watch the freshmen take off the sophomores and the juniors will attempt to defeat the seniors. And as always, we look forward to an exciting performance from our Powder Puff cheerleaders.
Thank you for listening, and we are both extremely excited to show off our school. Go Eagles!
Thank you. Good report. I want to recognize two principals at the high schools, Laura Ricks and Tegan Keplinger. Thank you for your support. And the board representatives, you may be excused. Start your homework off. Okay, we're going to have the California Japanese Scholars Exchange recognition. Dr. John Dixon, call on Mrs. Albiani to assist.
Thank you. Well, good evening, President Chet Madison Sr., members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. This evening, we're here to honor students and families that participated in the 2018-19 California Japanese Scholar Exchange Program. This program, more fondly known as the Osaka Program, is in its 22nd year in the Elk Grove Unified School District. The Osaka program was established in 1997 following a Senate delegation visit to Japan in 1995 with the purpose of promoting cultural understanding and international relationships. Each year, Osaka schools and Elk Grove alternate sending students on 2-week exchanges. This year, Elk Grove was honored to host 29 Japanese students and 2 teacher chaperones. The students and teachers were housed throughout the district and family with district families in 6 of our schools. While here, the Japanese students attended high school with their American host students. In addition, they toured the state capitol where there was a reception held in their honor, and they were recognized during a Senate floor session. The Japanese students and Elk Grove students also attended a reception thrown in their honor by the Consulate General of Japan at his residence. This program would not be possible without the partnership with the California Senate Office of International Relations. They annually provide the program with a $2,500 grant to assist with running the program and assist with coordinating events during both inbound and outbound years. This program also relies heavily on the Japanese teachers at our high schools, and we are fortunate to have at least 2 of them in the house tonight. More importantly, we want to make time to honor the host students and their families for the opening of their homes to this wonderful experience. At this time, I'd like to invite Matthew Chase to say a few words. One more words.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Chase. I graduated in the Elk Grove High School's class of 2019, and I'm currently a freshman at Sacramento State University. And I would like to talk about my personal experience with the California Japan Exchange Scholars Program. I was fortunate enough to not only fly out to Japan for the 2-week trip, but also to host an amazing family back in 2018. In the spring of 2018. And then I got to host not 1, but 2 Japanese students in my home. This was a total of 4 weeks. I believe by far this was the best 4 weeks of my life, and has inspired me to continue my study of the Japanese language and to eventually live and make a living in Japan. So after my trip, students every other year from Japan get to stay with American families to get to experience the American lifestyle. Usually it's 1. In some cases like mine, I got to host 2 students and show them what it's like to live in the U.S. It was a very fun experience taking my students to places like Old Town Sacramento and Six Flags, and seeing a similar reaction to mine when they took me to Universal Studios Japan. It was also very fun to see all of my teachers in all my classes try their best to include the Japanese students in any way possible during whatever lecture or activity we were doing, even though it was very hard for the Japanese students to understand. Lastly, I would like to thank the board members and Superintendent Christopher Hoffman for supporting and allowing this program to give students, both American and Japanese, to experience each other's culture firsthand. The program like this expands our possibilities and knowledge to be a global citizen for the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew, for that, for those words and sharing your observation experience. We'd like to invite the families up to receive their certificates. We'd like to start with the Chase family. So the Chase family, please come on up. We invited the entire family this evening. We had 6 students respond, so we wanted to share the experience. Thank you, Mrs. Chase. We're going to have you go join. We'll just do this. Drop it off. Join Matthew on Chase. Okay, next up is Emily Wu Agar and family. Congratulations, Emily. Yep. I know you contributed. Congratulations. Thank you for your help. Thank you for all your help. Yep. Next is Maria Sofia Flores and family. Thank you. Thank you. Followed by Matthew Lee Chase, who's already up here. Then Alexandra Takuchi and family. Taruko Leanne Handsome. And then finally, the appreciation for these two can't be overstated because they give countless hours in making this happen for students and coordinating this. It's Atsuko Koyushi. And Yuriki Kuzaman. Thank you.
If there are some parents out there, you want to take photos, you certainly can do that. Our friends. They're all on stage, yeah? Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the fine accomplishments. Okay, next we've got some resolutions. The Hispanic Heritage Month, Mr. Cerruti.
Thank you, President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. The Board of Education is requested to adopt Resolution Number 7 that designates September 15th through October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month. The Board of Education of Elk Grove has been a strong advocate for diversity within our school district. Given that interest, members of the Board of Education have an opportunity to recognize Hispanic Heritage Month. It's in September of 1968, Congress authorized President Johnson to proclaim National Hispanic Heritage Week, and the observance was expanded to a month in 1988. America celebrates the culture and traditions of U.S. residents who trace their roots to Spain, Mexico, the Hispanic-speaking nations of Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. September 15th was specifically chosen as the starting point for the celebration because it's the anniversary of independence of 5 Latin American countries, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. And in addition, Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence days on September 16th and September 18th, respectively. And with that, I respectfully request the board give consideration of adoption of Resolution Number 7.
Can I get a motion?
I'll second.
It's been moved in second. All those in favor to adopt Resolution Number 7 that designate September 15th through October 15th, 2019 as Hispanic Heritage Month.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. You're up again, I guess, Constitution Day, Mr. Cerruti.
Thank you, sir. The Board of Education is Also requested to consider the adoption of Resolution Number 8 that designates September 17th, 2019 as Constitution Day. September 17th, 2019 will be the 232nd anniversary of the formation and signing of the Constitution of the United States. The finalization of the Constitution had taken place after months of deliberation and discussion. It would be many more months before the Constitution was ratified by the states. In March 1789, the Constitution was declared to be in effect by the first U.S. Congress. The Constitution that still governs and guides our country today has had significant political influence around the world. The values and beliefs that are represented in this document are ones in which citizens of our country should be familiar. In 2004, Congress created a federal holiday, Constitution Day, designated to be September 17th. In May 2005, the U.S. Department of Education stipulated that all schools that receive federal monies must hold an educational program pertaining to the U.S. Constitution on September 17th of each year. Through this resolution, the Board of Education would communicate a clear message about the importance of our country's foundational governing document, as well as the importance of civic values. And with that, please give consideration to the adoption of Resolution Number 8 that designates September 17th as Constitution Day.
Call for a motion to adopt Resolution Number 8 that designates September 7, 2019 as the Constitution Day.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, sir. High School Voter Education Week, Zante Pinkerton.
Good evening, Board President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. So this evening, the California Education Code designates the last 2 weeks of September as High School Voter Education Weeks. And with me tonight is also Ms. Eleanor Love. I'll ask her to please join me. Eleanor is part of the Sacramento County Youth Commission, and she's with us from McClatchy High School, and she had a few words to share before I ask you to approve Resolution Number 12.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Eleanor Love, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Sacramento County Youth Commission, and I'm also co-chair of our commission's pre-registration project. I'm also a sophomore at CK McClatchy High School. I'd first like to thank you for hearing me tonight and for your interest in passing a resolution recognizing high school voter education weeks. Last year, we worked with Ms. Xanthi Pinkerton to enhance the way your school district informed and encouraged students about pre-registration. This included putting information on your district website and sending out flyers and letters to your students. This year, we continued our pre-registration efforts and are working again with you and Ms. Pinkerton, as well as Sac City and San Juan Unified School Districts, to also pass resolutions in recognition of these weeks. We are expanding our efforts by reaching out to other county youth commissions in our state and plan on reaching out to youth commissions in other states that allow pre-registration. Elk Grove Unified's pre-registration efforts play a critical role in the civic engagement of young people in Sacramento County. Last summer, the number of teenagers pre-registered in the county increased by 2,300, and since then, we have seen an increase by about 1,600 in the amount of pre-registered teens in Sacramento County. As of today, the data shows that there are just over 6,200 young people pre-registered to vote, and your efforts contributed to these numbers. Pre-registration and high school voter education weeks are key ways for the youth to be civically engaged. Civic engagement is so important, and we're very appreciative that your district was interested in joining the cause. Thank you again for hearing me tonight, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. Good job.
So as you can tell, we want to ensure that our students are learning to become active and engaged participants in our democracy. And together, we strongly encourage EGUSD high schools to participate in high school voter education weeks, September 16th through the 27th through 2019. So in order to help get our students on the path to a lifetime of civic engagement and voting, the Board of Education is requested to approve Resolution Number 12 for 2019-20, which proclaims the period of September 16th through the 27th, 2019 as high school voter education weeks.
Okay, motion to approve.
So moved.
Been moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
request from, return from student expulsion. So I have a motion to approve the request for return from student expulsion.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second by Mr. Perez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I have no public comments, no blue cards. Consent agenda.
I'd like to call for a motion to approve items 1 through 37 on the consent agenda.
It's been moved by, and second by Ms. Singh Allen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Race and educational equity, the progress report. Mr. Matthew Espinoza.
All right. Yeah, I think so, finally. All right, good afternoon, evening, Board President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. Today, we have an update, an annual update, something that we're working on, trying to figure out a best way to create a report that we can start to systematize as a formal yearly annual report that's measuring progress from our implementing the strategic plan. We leverage the strategic plan as the base for that report, and I'll kind of show you where we're at with that and give you the updates across the 6 foundations. And then we also wanted to share some exciting work that we're doing with communications and ways to communicate with the public and with our internal staff members. So the first thing I wanted to share that I think is part of our progress that we're making is this slide. This slide is similar to the slides that I've shown you before and I've shown at this progress report, but what's special about it is this is now an official slide that's included in every single district presentation as part of the now 4 core slides that are incorporated into every presentation. The E4, our district mission, our strategic goals, and our graduate profile, and now our educational equity framework. And part of that work of not only getting it instituted in there as a critical layer to evaluate and make decisions, a lens through which we can make decisions and operate, but also part of including it in there and getting it out, the word out, is that everyone that presents has to learn how to explain this. And so so we've made progress in that between our instructional coaches, our administrators, everyone has gotten at least some depth of knowledge now across our system, and our district administrators as well, in how to explain what this is and why we have it and where it's moving. And I think to start with the conclusion of our report, one of the biggest elements of progress that we're making is this idea of shared responsibility and shared responsibility across our organization for making our efforts for educational equity that aren't splashes in the pan, but are actual fundamental systemic changes, and that's what we require, because we'll need all hands on deck and everyone monitoring, because we know as soon as we let the foot off the gas, it's very easy to go back to the system the way it was built. And so we have made a lot of progress in getting everyone on board, and that's kind of a first step. So this is our first annual report. And the way that we have organized this report, and we're finalizing the last pieces of it because some of the data points have actually not been finished processing. They were supposed to be done in August, and there's still a lot of complications with that. So we want to make sure that you get at the next meeting, you'll get the full published, reviewed, and edited reports. But we have most of it put together already. What's that? Yes. Yeah, the robust staff members. But one of the things that, like I mentioned, part of the work is figuring out the shared responsibility. And so who contributed to this? We worked with leaders across our district to review, reflect, and to report out progress that's being made, working with our research and evaluation department to get data, and we're still working on that as well. And so it's really been a collaborative effort. We have set up along with for our public, an overview, which is pulling some pieces from the strategic plan in the first section of this report. Each foundation has a section, and in each foundation section there are an overview of the goals for that foundation, a data report that's tied to the metrics that were part of our strategic plan, and then actions that were taken in 2018-19, and then anticipated actions for, or next steps for 19-20. And so I'll share some of those with you today. So that's how it's set up. And one of the things I wanted to mention for each section is that not only was there collaboration in coming up with and reviewing and finalizing the work, also all of that work, those action steps it's been an ongoing process, not just something that happened recently. It's the leadership across the district, especially in our learning systems leadership team, which is our district leadership group for education services in schools, have been leveraging the actions, the suggested and recommended actions from our strategic plan, as well as building on additional items. And so that's been an ongoing process. All right, so starting with curriculum and instruction, some of the items that we wanted to call out this year have been the main accomplishment has been our adoption of history and social science textbooks, and we're very curious to see how the implementation of that changes our reporting of folks saying that the curriculum reflects the diversity in our district. So that will be a key indicator this coming year to see if that really makes an impact on folks feeling connected with our curriculum. But there is another major piece through our curriculum council has been updating in our high school some of the prerequisites and for high school courses, some that were determined as unnecessary gatekeepers and being able to attain a high school diploma. In particular, with our science department, there was a major shift in taking away what was deemed an unnecessary prerequisite that was keeping folks from entering second or third year science courses based on their progress in biology. So those are some of the highlights. We've also had our ethnic studies subcommittee working very steadily, and we've done a curriculum. We want to do more curriculum audits for representation formally next year, but we did do an initial curriculum audit for evidence of prevention of bullying and hate-motivated or bias-motivated behaviors. And it turns out that it is in our newly adopted history social science curriculum that we see the most evidence of formal instruction that connects to prevention of hate-motivated behaviors and bias-motivated behaviors. And so again, that will be something that we want to follow up with to see if this is really being implemented and if it makes an impact in our instruction. Another thing that's coming up in the coming year is looking into curriculum for social-emotional learning. And so we have some sites that are currently engaging in a pilot for culturally responsive social-emotional learning. and exploring that to add on to our currently adopted second step curriculum, which is the only character education materials that we have currently formally adopted by the board. But we're also exploring some of the other resources that different school sites are using as well. And then the third thing that is a major action plan this coming year is around our framework for high quality instruction. And one of the main tasks for us this year with our framework for high quality instruction as we prepare to roll it out to our instructional coaches and our teachers is that we explicitly identify where the culturally linguistically responsive practices fit into our framework for high quality instruction. So that's something that we anticipate being able to share with you all those, and we'll be including that in the trainings. For our opportunity and access.
Mr. Espinosa, can I
Yes.
just ask a question
Sure.
on your Foundation 1 slide? The removal of prerequisites that you were discussing,
Yes.
did that actually happen in this time period, or did that happen earlier? Because I thought we started doing that after the U.S. Department of Education civil rights investigation. So are you describing something that happened as a result of the implementation of this?
Yeah, so the science piece happened formally last year, but it's been an ongoing process to reevaluate the current prerequisites for our site. Another thing with Opportunity and Access has also been a committee to evaluate our requirements for graduation, and they've made recommendations for that as well.
Okay, thank you.
So for our Opportunity and Access piece, one of the things that we're looking at is how do we make sure that we are providing sufficient academic supports and socio-emotional supports. And that's something that we actually, the socio-emotional piece we did not measure the year before, so we have a baseline where 57.1% overall of our students feel like they have received sufficient socio-emotional supports. One of the things that we have recently implemented that's taking place this year is that we hired and extended either mental health therapists or social workers across all of our sites. So we've actually significantly increased the mental health and socio-emotional supports that we're providing this year. So we would anticipate that that is a number that will grow going into the following year. Yes.
Do we do assessment on early childhood development of students, pre-K or kindergarten on our students regarding this issue?
That I'm not 100% sure on, so we can see if we can get that information to you. By assessment, you mean socio-emotional or educational?
Right. For instance, if they witness, if they come from a neighborhood in which they may have witnessed domestic violence, they are in need, if they have received or, dealing with their environment at home, if they're coming from a single parent.
Yes. Yeah. So for in terms of social emotional well-being and wellness, yeah. So I'll have to look into what kinds of screeners and evaluations are done for pre-K and early childhood.
I think they're doing it all the way to 8th grade, is my understanding. Okay.
So for additional actions being taken, one of the things that, in terms of access to programs, has been an emphasis is trying to figure out the best ways to get more of our students qualified, especially our students of color and low-income students, into GATE and advanced coursework. So one of the practices that were developed amongst our GATE coordinators has been to share best practices for increasing referrals and increasing the numbers of referrals for GATE and advanced identification that go beyond students' test scores. And so qualifying for leadership skills, qualifying for artistic talents and gifts, and athletics talents and gifts, as well as based on standardized tests. And so that has expanded opportunities and programs, and that's something that we will continue to invest in. One of the upcoming pieces that was put into place for AVID work has been to hire an AVID coordinator that will help to establish from elementary through secondary AVID programs and solidify the access to the study skills and college-bound supports that our AVID programs provide. In addition, one of the main highlights has been the expansion across all of our secondary school sites into the use of the California colleges resources that I believe Nicole Brown shared with you a few reports ago. And that is a really powerful tool that allows us to both collect information on student interests, and both in terms of careers and college, potential college approaches or directions and pathways, but also for families and students to have access to the information that they need to continue along the pathways for those careers and colleges. One of the areas that we're planning on taking action on this current school year has been partnering with our Office for Family and Community Engagement across all of these different program areas, and helping and developing and designing trainings, workshops, and outreach into our communities to help them understand both what those programs are, especially our advanced programs, and how to support students once they're in the programs, so that there's full wraparound support for that. Another piece of work that's going on through our counseling has been an initiative called Academic Advising for 100% Academic Advising, and that's really looking to find ways that our school counselors can meet with 100% of these gigantic students, and their caseloads are large, but really looking at best practices for being able to make contact with all of the students on their caseloads, not just the ones that come to them or are red flagged. And so that's a process that's being explored this year, and they hope to make advance. And I know a couple of the school sites are already trying out some of those practices to see how they can reach 100% of their students. And with that, there's the development of, from the framework for high quality instruction, what would a framework for high quality counseling look like? And so there's partnership with that as well. And then the last thing is expanding our professional learning that we're providing to staff around social emotional learning. So that way we can really increase the amount of instruction in social emotional learning, and some of that will be partnered with the exploration of potential curricula that could be used to teach social emotional learning lessons.
Mr. Espinosa,
yes.
Can I ask you a question on Measure 2.1? A couple of questions, actually. So the item, the metric, if you will, is the percentage of students in all of these programs by student group. So I assume that means like our by ethnic group and other groups like that. But you have single digits here in the measure column. So are those numbers the top line, like?
Yeah, so these are all our top line numbers, and then in the coming weeks, this is part of our LCAP metrics. Mm-hmm. So as those LCAP metrics are released and processed, we'll get the full report. This is just hot off the presses, mm-hmm. top line data. So so we can revisit this again once we get the full reports as part of the LCAP process.
Okay, because obviously that disaggregation and disparity is really the purpose here. Okay. Second question on that same 2.1. Am I reading this correctly, saying we had a 15 percentage point drop in CTE participation?
Yes, and I'm not 100% sure the cause behind that, so that's something that we can come back and try
part of the piece we'll have to
deeper.
look at is related to what meets the definition of CTE, because there's been some redefining of those pieces. So what used to count as CTE in the introductory courses don't meet that now, so there's going to be a rebenching of what that number means, but it doesn't mean we offer that many fewer classes, but it's a definition piece, so we'll clarify for you.
Yeah, that sounds really dramatic, so I hope there's some other explanation there. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're going to try to get through the report, and then I'm sure all the board we've got some questions, and
Okay.
that was one that I had that's what she brought up.
All right, sounds good. So for the professional learning, one of our, as we know, our big initiative that's really district-wide is our Arbinger training. And every single time since then, so we're currently in the middle of a leadership institute, equity leadership institute that we're working with 7 of our schools to do some really deep, intensive work around understanding educational equity, reviewing their systems, and creating a 3-year educational equity plan for their school sites. And one of the things that every time we attend or we engage in some sort of professional learning around culturally responsive instruction, around educational equity, there's such a strong connection to our Arbinger as a foundation, our Arbinger work, and really recognizing and understanding that relationships and the way that we interact with folks and view folks is fundamental in all of the work that we're doing. And so we have currently made progress where in such a large district, we have 1/3 of our staff already trained. And one of the things I wanted to highlight was our management at 68%. That's really critical because it's a lot of times it's our managers, whether it's classified management or school site management, that getting them on board first then allows them to bring that to their site, and we get the whole site trained, and that's been a trend. So we've seen, so the faster we can move our management ahead, the easier it is for them then to get their departments or their teams or their staff on board as well. And so we really believe that we're at a tipping point at this point now with so much of our management staff on board and already 1/3 of our entire district trained that we can make a lot of progress this year. That said, one of the areas that we know is we need to work on is figuring out the best way to evaluate the impact of our professional learning. There were some problems with our previous system that we were using for professional learning management, that as we transition into a brand new system, it's going to offer us some new tools for actually tracking, evaluating, monitoring, and reporting out progress in professional learning. And that's going to be really critical for us going into the coming year. As we move forward, one of the things that, one of our main tools for professional learning is not just formal workshops or modules, but actually our instructional coaches who are providing ongoing professional learning, sometimes one-on-one professional learning to our staff. So when it comes to moving instruction, we know instructional coaches are critical. And so this year, I personally am doing intensive work with our instructional coaches multiple times throughout the year to help them develop their advocacy skills and develop a lens for culturally and linguistically responsive teaching so they can be our main vehicle for providing that professional learning over time. For student-centered supports, one of the main areas of progress has been in improving our implementation for our PGHS programs. And a lot of that has been triggered in formalizing our output data, our ability to measure implementation of programs, which has been growing and will continue to grow over time. And with that, it's allowed for certain conversations and coaching and support to make rapid progress. And so you see a significant shift from the year before to last year in our implementation of the program. One of the data points that we still, that I wanted to call out is that when it comes to our work with suspension and discipline, we've talked about how overall our trend has been to a reduced number of suspensions over time. The last 2 years have been pretty similar in terms of the overall number of incidents. However, one of the pieces that we want to look at is looking at it by unique individuals and how many individuals, regardless of how many incidents, even if we're reducing the number overall of incidents, are being suspended. And so we have a lower rate overall of 4.6, but if we look at a couple of specific subgroups, we know that our American Indian students are currently twice as likely to be suspended at almost 8%, as are our students with disabilities at 9.9%. It's our African American students who are about 3 times as likely at 13.8. And perhaps most shockingly, it's our foster youth at rate of 25.1, so nearly 6 times the average rate in our district for suspension. So those are areas of significant need. For example, with our foster youth services program, that department is participating in our Equity Leadership Institute, partnering with the other school sites that are participating, and also coming up with their own equity plan for how they can support within the development within their department, and then connect and collaborate across to really leverage their resources and skill sets, and to raise awareness of the support for those groups. So these are all things that we're aware needs priority attention in the coming year. A couple of the things that we're trying to do to address those. One is there are several, building off of the calibrated discipline work that was took place in the spring of this last year, including the development of a discipline matrix and some common understandings of how to implement a lot of the board policy shifts that we've had to really tackle this issue. Are now professional development modules that every single administrator are receiving, veteran and new, around the actual policies themselves and the use of the matrix, but also a discipline philosophy mindset of what is it actually, what should you be thinking about in the moments of these disciplinary incidents. And part of that is reflecting on what does it mean to be equitable in this incident? What does it mean to be timely? What does it mean to be consistent? What does it mean to be fair? And really getting to the heart of how we make decisions as it relates to discipline and the key factors to consider. As well as understanding how to leverage tools like Synergy to track reports and to log it, and to keep up with and monitor progress in this area. And so that's one piece. We also are instituting every single administrator receiving implicit bias training and one intensive session, and then ongoing follow-up activities and reflections throughout the year. So I'll be working with our secondary and elementary schools directors to design that and bring that to the attention. And so those are some of the areas working with our administrators. In addition to that, I know we've mentioned before, as we talked about discipline, our investment in finding a key partner and really intensifying our work around restorative justice. And so, so we're making progress in that, and we hope to start to institute that work as well. So those are a couple of the key areas in this item. For our family, school, and community work, this is, again, this is data that is part of, we're waiting to get our parent survey analysis back as part of the report that we'll check in with the data when we have our next meeting. But we know that we have had a significant movement in our home visits, and it was received in with such acclaim that many more schools are now excited to get on board and taking the home visits training. And so that's one area that we know is growth. In addition to that, the fact that our Office of Family and Community Engagement has blossomed to be able to have folks that can focus on our refugee program, and that can focus on community engagement itself, and that then my office and other departments can partner with that community engagement coordinator to really develop our collaboration with community partners. We hope that our Office of Family and Community Engagement will be an amazing resource for all departments and our schools across our system to be a vehicle to increase family and community collaboration and engagement. And then finally, for our recruitment, hiring, and retention, this is, we have data from our survey around staff belief of investment in development. One of the things that we have that hasn't been developed thoroughly yet are a whole range of metrics for this item. There were some issues with the two systems, our student information system and our human resources system being able to speak to each other and connecting data together. And those things are being worked out now, and we've actually developed a host of potential metrics that we are planning to formalize this current year in order to increase the amount of information that we're gathering around our current staffing. So that is some updates on the report, and again, we'll have the report for you to review for the next session formally. The last thing that I wanted to call out, though, is that part of our work this year has been to improve and increase our ability to share resources, tools, and also be able to communicate beyond our board meetings with our community, and in particular with our staff, so they have the tools they need to do this work. And so I'd like to invite up two of my partners so you can see them. Kathleen Watts from our technology service, our web specialist, and Tremaine Lotz, our web and communications specialist from our communications department. And I wanted to invite them up because they've been critical partners in our equity work. And you might not think that folks in our tech services and communications think of them first when you think of who are equity leaders in our district. But these two have made tremendous impact on our ability to message, on creating our framework and all the colors and the icons, our templates for our presentations, and most importantly, it's this piece that I'm going to share with you right now, which is our resource website. So I'm going to play a brief video overview so you can see what this website looks like, and then I'll have them share just a few words about the work that they did to create it.
Welcome to the Elk Grove Unified School District Educational Equity Resource website. This site serves as a resource warehouse for information and tools to support educational equity efforts across our district. The collection of resources will grow and change over time as we add new resources to the site each month. The homepage of the Educational Equity Resource site provides general information about current district-wide equity efforts, the Office of Educational Equity, and the Educational Equity Strategic Plan guiding our work. The key equity foundations from the strategic plan each have their own web pages for more specific information and resources. All of the equity foundation pages are organized in similar ways. The description and goals for the foundation are provided at the top. On the right-hand column are links to websites or Google resource folders that may contain helpful information to support equity efforts. Resources from the Google resource folders are previewed in the left column slider. Below the resource preview slider is a list of relevant books for recommended reading. Each page also has a Google form where visitors to the site can receive monthly emails communicating new resources added to the site and upcoming opportunities for professional learning or educational equity related events. Visitors can also use the form to submit suggestions for resources to add to the site, to share ideas or examples of great equity work happening across the district, or to ask questions to the Office of Educational Equity. We hope you may consider signing up for our monthly equity emails. Additionally, on the Professional Learning Foundation tab, you can find current offerings promoted to address equity and diversity issues. We hope our Elk Grove Unified School District community will use the site to inform equity work, and that the site will continue to expand access to resources to support those efforts. Thank you for visiting.
So I created the website to look kind of similar to our other department websites. And I used elements from our different, the educational equity framework. The icons that you see that it was used in his PowerPoint are kind of elements I used on the website as well.
We utilize the Google resource folders because the site is going to grow, and if we get resources sent to us, we wanted an easy way that we could just add things to the folders so that we wouldn't have to update the links constantly on the site. People will just click on a link and get the most recent resources in the folders. So I think it's a good way to keep it updated.
And I just want to call out that, as I mentioned, not only did they help with the resource, but they also helped to develop the icons and all the full campaign of being able to show and explain visually what educational equity looks like and means in our district, which is really powerful. And Kathleen in particular is an advocate and one of our key evaluators for accessibility in technology in our website, and has been doing work with that too. So with that, I want to recognize both Kathleen and Tremaine as being leaders in our equity work and thank them for all of their support and hard work in these efforts.
Your favorite part of it. Sure. Man, good to see you. Up front of the group.
All right. Questions?
I had one blue card on this. Ms. Pryor, do you want to come up and?
Oh, sure.
I'm going to be nice today. So I had a couple of questions, and I think Ms. Charis Espinosa asked my question about slide 2.1, and I wanted to see the disaggregated data by race. Slide 2.3, it said something about students, a certain number of students said that something was sufficient, and I want to know how are they judging the sufficiency with the student groups? Like, what are they asking? Because last time I was here, they were talking about students had a problem belonging, so now they find sufficiency in student groups, and I want to know how they're coming up with that. Let's see.
Social emotional
Also,
support.
I'm sorry?
2.3 is social emotional support.
Yes, so the sufficiency, how are they gauging that? Also in 2.3, it says the percentage of students receiving suspensions by student group. Is that, are we looking, is there disaggregated data for that? Oh, okay.
We do have that, yeah.
Okay, I just didn't see it presented. And then, let's see. Also, when you said you went through the numbers of the student groups receiving the most suspensions, I heard you say the American Indian, I heard you say students with disabilities, you said Black students, and then you said foster youth were at like 25%. Can I see the disaggregated data of the foster youth who comprise that number? That would be helpful. And then it says that 32% of your staff or managers or overall are trained in Arbinger, and my understanding is that Arbinger deals with the thought process and how that's how to interpret what you're putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And I don't see how something like Arbinger by itself can be useful, because what you have is a heart issue. When you can't see people and you don't have compassion for other people, it's hard to even be able to empathize with that person. So I would suggest you get some training about heart issues or how you can put empathy into the job. This last week, I don't know if you guys heard what's going on in another school district with the racist post that went out. When we're talking social emotional learning, someone has to put their own feelings aside and get there to be there with the students who are facing or dealing with whatever they're feeling about what has transpired. I've sat in a room with kids who were crying, kids who were scared to come to school, and not one of those teachers came over there to try to offer them that social emotional support that they needed. So my question is, is Elk Grove today prepared to offer that social emotional support should something like that happen here? Because there's this thing when you say social emotional learning, bullying, and bias motivated behavior, somewhere in there should be racism, because that is something that students are dealing with in real time here too in this school district. So I think that we need to have a bullet for that specific word. I don't know why everybody's scared to approach that issue, but it's a real issue. And if we're not going to deal in truth, we can't really get to the heart of the problem to even address it. So I would just like to see that word, racism, added. And then I wanted to know how big was the sample that we saw. How big, how many students or teachers, or I just need to know how big the sample was. Yep, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. We'll have some questions. Ms. Singh Allen.
Thank you. Great presentation, Mr. Espinosa. I think you clearly love your job. You have so much enthusiasm. Every time you come here, I think you live and breathe this stuff. At least that's how I sense it.
Thank you.
So your passion definitely shows. I actually had some of the same questions that that Ms. Pryor raised, so I'll sort of piggyback on some of that in terms of the sample size. You know, it's as good as its number, or is it, you know, I know that this is scientific data, but it'd still be very helpful to know how many students and how many schools, just to get a better idea. Are they all coming from one area? Are they all one region? How diverse is the survey sample? I think that would definitely help me. I think, you know, overall, systemic change doesn't happen overnight. And so it's a deliberate process, and I'm proud of the work that we're doing to get towards those changes. In some of the slides, I like some of the numbers, but the flip side is another story. For example, you know, in 4.1, just to, as an example, it's encouraging to see that almost 66% of students feel like, you know, that there's a favorable rating of culture and climate, but I'm also seeing the other side of the number, the 44%.
That's significant, right?
It's a lot. So while these numbers are, you know, some that are trending better than last year, they're still, I mean, there's obviously a lot of gaps. 4.3 is another example. Of, you know, over 30% have an unfavorable rating for their social and emotional learning. So while it's, you know, 67% what might look good, I'm also seeing the other side of the story of, well, because that's where the growth happens. That's where the improvements are happening in those gaps. So I'm very mindful of the progress that is still, you know, that we need to still strive for in our goals. So those are just alarming numbers to me. And then in terms of Arbinger, slide 8, I think that those are excellent numbers there, that a third of our district has been trained. I know that we offered a training for the community once upon a time. I know some that went through that. Are we going to be doing another one, particularly? I mean, I don't know if Ms. Pryor, for example, went through that, but I think if we opened it up to other stakeholders that are vested in our district that come, because to the point of whether this training is really more about training the mind and not the heart, I've gone through a series of the training, not just the first glance of it. And I definitely think that it does go to the heart, because at the core of the training is to see the humanity in everyone. And to see the humanity is not just my mindset of how I want to see you, but it's how I want to treat you and how I feel about you. And so I think that, you know, the more in-depth trainings that we do have as part of our Arbinger, but I do think that there is value in offering that to our other stakeholders that are engaged actively in our district, because that is something that we as a district have invested in and we believe in, because we've gone through, most of us have gone through more than just one tier of the training. And so if we're going to be talking about these numbers and what it means long-term and how we plan to address some of those systemic issues and address those gaps, I would definitely invite Ms. Pryor and others to participate, because I definitely think that it's transformative. It definitely changed me as a school board member. And I know others that have taken it, not just employees, but that are part of the community. I also know that our chief of police, our just retired chief of police in Elk Grove, went through this and brought that mindset with the Elk Grove PD. And it's been transformative. So there's a lot of heart that goes in there, and the mind. So again, going back, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but if we can continue to offer not just to our staff, but also stakeholders, because they're vested partners in our educational process. So that would be one of my asks, is to continue that and offer that. Other than that, I don't really think I have any other questions. I see here that, you know, in one of your other attachments, that the actions are a result of many partners that went into this presentation. So I like that broad range of a mindset approach to bring in others to be part of this, this process. So excellent presentation. It's good to know what the data is, because it gives us a to-do list of where we need to work harder. So thank you.
Thank you. And with the final report, we'll add in more details about the disaggregation of each of those numbers.
Dr. Martinez, O'Leary?
I'd like to echo those comments. That it's an excellent presentation. I did have quite a few questions that came up. I'm glad to see in comments, overall, you touched on a variety of issues that weren't just here in this presentation, talking about how the increased rate of referrals to certain subgroups in relation to AVID or honors and AP. Wearing my counselor hat, I know how critical it is for access, and so making sure that we have more students from underrepresented groups being referred to those specialized programs are very key and important, so that everybody has an equal opportunity. Also, just looking at the slide and the variety of comments you mentioned, hearing as a counselor as well in higher education, how you mentioned the goal for counseling is to reach 100% of their student body. And I know the caseloads can be very high, especially in some of our high school areas where we have hundreds of students that are there, and each counselor would probably see an estimate of 200 to 300 students per counselor. I just think of maybe for best practices in case management, a model could include some ways to follow up or strategize and have group sessions or outreach. I think there's a lot of work that could be done there with the counseling background and also the therapy background. We're hiring more social workers, and so also being able to utilize them as an advocate, but also help inform and educate the parents and the child and the whole family on different processes for access. I was looking at the suspension rate that you gave, and I was glad to see that you went back over thoroughly and covered that 4.6% rate, because I wasn't sure what you meant by that, but I'm glad you explained each of the subgroups. I don't want to get off derailed topic here, but some of the work I've done previously is on the American Indian suspension rates and working with Dr. Luke Wood from San Diego State. And I've been talking about how an article will be coming out addressing Native student suspension rates. And so I'm glad to see that you covered that subgroup, but each of the other subgroups you mentioned as well. And for me, it's very critical. You know, I asked those questions with the foster youth, what is happening in regards to that population. So again, if we could have that data presented in the overall report, I'd really appreciate that. So that way we can take a deeper dive, because when we look at these numbers, I'm looking at patterns. Is it a certain type of student that's repeatedly getting in trouble over time? And what are things that we can really do to implement and engage the student and the family to change that pattern? I want to say, too, I'm glad you mentioned in your comments that you will be talking about the different types of training that will be occurring, implicit bias, the restorative justice. I am hopeful. I know with the data that presented here overall, we have things that we know are working, but we always have areas and room for improvement. And so I'm really glad to see that laid out in this presentation as well. as follow to my colleague, what she mentioned, we have a large percentage moving in one direction, but then I always think about the other percentage of students as well, and ways that we can access and reach out to those students. And I'm really excited about the website. I'll say that, and the opportunity for the community to also add input on upcoming events. So again, thank you all for the work and the presentation and the website work. I know that takes very much time and can be time consuming as well. So thank you.
Mr. Perez.
Very well done. I'm looking forward for school, family, community forthcoming reports. The other questions I had were questioned by or answered very thoroughly by you. But one thing I'm concerned about also was student suspensions. We have data on students, but do we have data by what teachers are suspending by each school site? Because a lot of times we always look at the student, but do we actually look at the teachers and classroom management skills? And so I was thinking, a lot of times in my past, it has also been an issue with teachers unprepared to deal with culturally linguistic students. There's misunderstandings, things like this. So I was wondering, do we have data on the number of teachers who are doing the suspensions?
We don't have reports by teachers, but there's data in our system. I'm not sure exactly how that would work to pull that out, but something I can look into. I'll say that one of that we see in the survey from teachers in terms of the issues that they're most interested in receiving professional learning on, about a quarter of them said that they're interested in more professional learning around culturally responsive instruction,
Right.
but more than 40% of them responded that they would be interested in professional learning around engaging students that lack motivation, which I think the way it's phrased is a little problematic, but I actually think really it's speaking to the same issue. And a lot of times it's that figuring out a way to bridge the gap. And so I think there's a lot of opportunities, and the more that we can know to provide those supports, the better. And that's one of the reasons why we're engaging our instructional coaches, because they're the ones on the ground working with each individual teacher to be partners in that and providing that work.
Also be interested to know if those individual teachers or professors, are they new teachers or old teachers? The difference, between those. And do they actually have classroom management curriculum of studies and teacher prep nowadays?
Yes, they
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the report. Some things stood out to me. I think social-emotional learning is definitely one of the areas that as a school district we're having to do more of, and I'm excited that we're diving into that and seeing how we can help. I think once we do Arbinger, I think people are much more open to cultural proficiency, implicit bias kind of training, which is important. I think the first step for us is to is to get someone through Arbinger so they can see they could use that. And so I'm excited that that's getting done. I had a question. You're doing some dives with 7 schools on equity. What are you doing? Elementary, middle, high school? Is it varied? Just, you don't have to name them, but.
Yeah, so we have 5 elementary schools, 1 middle and 1 high, plus another high school that's doing affiliated equity work, but through Sac State. And so all of us in partnership are having that conversation. This is a follow-up institute, but now more systematized, I would say, into our direction and our vision for equity. That was actually offered a year and a half ago and was well received. So we have an additional 5 schools that participated a year and a half ago, and we'll be inviting all of them, plus our foster youth services and our director for the arts that are participating together to continue to have follow-up meetings in the spring, and then going into the following year and actually implementing this plan that they're developing so that they get ongoing support. And our impetus for offering this was so that way I and our Office of Educational Equity could make sure to provide those and expect that they're carrying out and implementing with the resources and support and guidance that we can provide. So it's a big endeavor. It's actually an 8-day institute, so this is a huge investment in terms of time and thinking and learning for these school sites, and we expect it to yield great results.
Oh, I think it sounds incredible, so congratulations on that. It's exciting to see our PBS numbers go up, and I believe we found ways to measure them sufficiently that allow people to improve, and that's very exciting. You're going to provide subgroups. We've gone over that. I think it's very interesting on school engagement. That's one of my interests, is for kids to feel engaged and connected to school, so I look forward to that definitely. And my last thing is I have always said I think we have silos of excellence, and you have given a place for those to be shared publicly and with the public and the people. So I couldn't be more excited about that setup of that website. I look forward to see how many people use it. I think it allows people, as they learn and become more aware, to do personal investigation, to be personal learning. In my learning through equity, I found it can be it's very deep learning, a lot of reflection, and not always something that's easily done in a large crowd. And so this allows people to investigate where they think they have challenges, and I'm thrilled. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Sharius Espinoza?
Hi. First, I had a question. Sorry, I lost it on my screen, but I think it was slide 11. There was a question 41. The response was something like, I can work independently, something like that. I wanted to know what, thank you. Authority is delegated so that people can act on their own. What exactly does that mean? Because we've gotten into trouble before when people act on their own. So what does that mean? Foundation 6, slide 11.
For the staff, from the staff survey?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll have to look more into exactly where what the intention behind that is. You can see it's a cluster, so there's a cluster of 5. And I'll say the intention of all 5 of those is about capacity building, and that we're building up capacity of our staff for them to be able to continue to independently act, but with the background knowledge to do so.
Yeah, it would be helpful to know what is meant by that, what I guess the goal is of that question. And also, I mean, I really hope that the question is not being posed to respondents in that manner, because it's kind of vague, and I mean, there can be a whole universe of things captured in that. And with that, thank you for your report. It's very encouraging to know that so much work is going on in this area, and as the board intended, that it not just be done by you, by the equity team per se, that it really be distributed across the district. I'm a little antsy to see, I won't even call them results, but just to see those indicators from the first couple of years of implementation. So can you remind me of just process-wise, so this is your draft, and when is the final coming to us?
So in the first October meeting.
Okay, and it'll have all of the missing data there on ethnic breakouts and all that good stuff. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fortuna.
Thank you. Now, the report is, from my perspective, good from the perspective of providing numbers. But for me, in order for a report to be helpful and to have value, is to have information that says why. As we look at the slides, there are numbers that have gone up, numbers that have gone down, numbers that have stayed the same, and we are expending both human and fiscal resources, and I'm left with why. Because if we don't talk about the why, and we've discussed this issue before with other reports, like with suspension and expulsion and others, you may know the why, and you may know what you're going to do to respond to the numbers, but for me, looking at the report, it doesn't tell me anything at all. I look at the report, and when I look at percentage of students saying, as an example, they have sufficient support, last year it was 72%, then it went to 76%. So you had some growth. Why? What happened different? And a number of my colleagues, had asked questions in that same general arena. And so when you look at that final report and you take a more in-depth look at the numbers, if it is possible, to me, it would be very, very helpful. And I would think for anyone looking at the report to have a sense that staff has looked at the numbers and that staff knows what they're doing. Otherwise, an assumption can be you don't know what you're doing. You're just going to keep doing what you've always done. And I know that's not true, but certainly numbers just don't. Numbers just are numbers. I mean, numbers don't say anything. But so you made progress or you went down. Why? When we looked at CTE going down, Chris provided an explanation. Well, that's great, and it helps you understand why. But I look at the number and I go, Jesus, criminy. We because of the response to the civil rights complaint, we expended all kinds of money and time, and we dropped 15%. And so it just would be really helpful to understand why the numbers are what they are, and how you're responding to make changes. Number two, and it's more of a comment than anything. You talked in terms of the social emotional support. That it's good that we've added, that we have an increase, that we have focus and that sort of thing. But the reality is that the needs are not commensurate with the available support. So then it begs the question, and I asked a principal today, so given that you're not getting any more administrative support, and you're probably not getting any more psychological support, you're probably not getting any more counselors right now, and you're probably not getting any more mental health workers, but you have more and more kids needing support. What are you doing? And that's a bigger question that I think that we really need to look at in terms of how are we dealing with the complexities with the number of resources we have. And so that's just an issue. The same thing I asked this principal today. I do believe that we are all supportive of Arbinger in terms of what it professes to be about. But as a principal, how do you know it's working? As a board member, how do I know it's working? As a parent, how do you know it's working? We're spending millions, but how do we know it's working? And somewhere, somehow, that has to be ferreted out so that we see its relationship to the extent that we can in things like social emotional, in things like suspension and expulsion. How does it interplay? And again, while the numbers are great, and I know what you're trying, I believe I know what you're trying to achieve, with the report, it just for me just leaves like me wanting so much, so much more information. I know I know the effort in one sense it's certainly in its infancy, and a lot of my concerns they're not yours. It's the district as a district in terms of how we're focusing on some of these things. But I guess bottom line for me, numbers without anything else are just numbers, and they just don't mean anything to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think my colleagues have covered a lot. I will say this again and echo Ms. Bobby Singh Allen. You're the right man for this job. And I think you'll take some forms of criticism on this, but this is new for this big district, and we're going to stay consistent on this and not have it a year and it goes away. We look at it. So I think it's going to take time to do a lot of things that we're working hard to achieve that's out there. We covered the disaggregate, breaking it down more, having the answers to the percentages. And it's true, we can look at numbers till the cows come home, but we want to know why, what some of the improvements in there. And also having the courageous conversations of race and equity. And race is a word people don't like to talk about. I think our public speaker indicated that as well too. And it's hard when you can sit in front of somebody or a group and talk about things like that. Suspension, I still want to see the elementary schools where we have some measurement. When I look at some detailed reports, when I see a first, a second grader, or a third grader being suspended, and particularly at some of our challenging schools, we're not doing anything to help that child, a second grade child, and we suspend them. I don't know what some of the details are behind it, but I read the reports, but I don't know a lot of the whys. Why would we have a racial suspension at some of these elementary schools? What's going on and what the needs are that's in there. And I think hopefully we're gonna tackle a lot of that in the future that's coming right now. I think one of my colleagues mentioned about the curriculums where we look at the Abbott programs, the GATES, and I think we miss a lot of opportunity when we are not seeking some of the potential of some of these kids. I think some of our teachers have a tendency where we look at smart kids right off the bat. They come in, they come from good families, and they're right in there, noticeable. But how many are we not tapping that's out there, can do very well, but they don't perhaps have the parental support, or maybe just looking at scores on tests and so forth. I think we can do a good job in that area when it comes to the equity part on that. So without just rambling on and on, I look forward to a lot out of our equity program, and I have confidence you're going to do some good hard work in it, and we're going to push the envelope on it.
And I just want to say, I know I mentioned building a coalition with our district staff as being a big part, but you all are a major part of that as well, along with our community members. And so our coalition continues to grow, and I really appreciate. There are not that many school boards quite like this, I know from other people with similar positions, that have a board as strongly advocates for the students as you all, and so I appreciate that partnership as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the report, and we look forward to you coming back in October.
Can't get rid of me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bargaining units. I got any bargaining units like to come up and? Can't hear you. Okay. No. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'm going to call on Mr. Dave Riley, consideration of public notice on the ATU's proposal to the district regarding collective bargaining on the 2019-20 school year.
Good evening, President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. Pursuant to Government Code Section 3547, the following are stipulated for negotiations between a bargaining unit and the district. The union's initial proposal is officially presented at a public meeting of the governing board for public notice, and a public hearing is conducted to receive public input regarding the union's initial proposal. ATU's initial proposal is attached. It is recommended that after the closure of the public hearing, the board take action to accept ATU's initial proposal.
Okay, I'd like to call for a public hearing on this matter, ATU proposal. Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a motion. It's been moved in second that we accept the ATU's initial proposal. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Geraldine Ewing on the pupil textbook and instruction material.
Good evening, President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, and Ms. Avalos. As you'll recall, the Board of Education held a public hearing in accordance with Education Code 60119 regarding the sufficiency of textbooks and instructional materials at the last board meeting held on August 13th, 2019. Tonight, I'm here to request the approval of Resolution Number 2, certifying that LCFF and Proposition 20 monies are expended to ensure that each pupil has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials in the Elk Grove Unified School District.
I want to call for a motion to approve Resolution Number 2, certifying that the district is in compliance with Educational Code 60119, ensuring that each pupil has sufficient instructional material.
Okay. Second.
It's been moved and second by Mr. Fortuna. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Resolution to eliminate classified position, Mr. Riley.
Good evening once again, President Madison, members of the board, Superintendent Hoffman, Ms. Avalos. The board is asked to adopt the attached resolutions to eliminate classified positions due to lack of work, lack of funds pursuant to Education Code Sections 45114, 45298, 45308, and 45117.
I want to call for a motion to adopt Resolution Number 11, authorizing the governing board to eliminate classified positions. It's been moved.
I'll second.
And second, Ms. Sherry Espinola, is moved by
Ms. Albiani.
Ms. Albiani. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, sir. Board member and superintendent's reports. Ms. Singala? Okay. Mr. Perez? No. Mr. Fortuna?
Not tonight, but I'll have 3 for you next time.
You're pulling up next time, huh? Okay.
Saving them up. I have other items if we're ready for that. Superintendent report?
Yeah. Superintendent reports? Okay. None of us have any reports this time around. Other items on the floor?
I have one.
Espinoza?
I would like to thank Mr. Pierce and Mr. Hoffman for their participation in some statewide advocacy on education issues. Even though education lobbying is what I do for a living, you might think I want everyone to get involved in that, but it's actually the opposite. I'm very hesitant to have any of our staff, even our board members, take any of their time or attention away from serving our kids. So, you know, I have a high bar for asking anyone to pay attention to anything that's going on at the state level. But by giving examples of how some bills in the legislature could affect our district, the 5th largest district in the state, I think they have been very helpful to decision makers. So I just want to extend an appreciation there.
Okay. Yes, Doctor.
I just wanted to mention that on September 27th, it will be the annual California Native American Day at the state capitol. And so that's always open to the public. There will be dancers and some tribal leaders speaking. And then I mentioned earlier that I'm working as a co-author along with the whole committee that I sit on, the Sacramento Native American Higher Education Collaborative. They recently changed their name. With co-authoring an article on Native suspension rates. And that article will be published or coming out on September 27th. That was the goal for the group, so that way we could get the research out during that date and make an announcement to the Native community as well. So there will be a live link from the SEAL website, from San Diego State with this research article. So looking forward to sharing all of that with you very shortly here in the upcoming weeks.
Fantastic, good. Ms. Allen?
Yes, thank you. Just want to do a couple of announcements. Just a shout out to Cosumnes Oaks High School's new principal, Juan Hadagui. As a parent, I've observed him on campus, and he's very visible and is just doing a remarkable job connecting with our students. And then, you know, I'm also now a football mom, which I didn't think was going to happen, but it has. Just this on Friday, just to see him actively participating, doing push-ups and doing all the silly things to build school spirit. And you know, our school has, for the lack of a better word, you know, we've been suffering for about a year of really rebuilding culture and climate. And I think that he is not only the right person for the job, but he's really going all in and really engaged. So I just wanted to report back to the colleagues that I'm just getting phenomenal feedback from the parents that I talked to about him. And then I did attend a retiring chief of police's going away party for Chief Noblet. And then just before our board meeting this evening, I did attend also the swearing in ceremony for our incoming chief, our new chief, Tim Albright, who's you know, both quite remarkable men and have the mindset of community policing and bring a lot of heart. So I'm very excited to continue the relationship that our district has built with the new chief of police. And then also attended the Teacher of the Year dinner, so just wanted to do a shout out once again to Julie Fong, who was selected as Sacramento County Teacher of the Year from our district 2 years in a row, so very excited about that. And of course, Christina Moslin, who was our own Teacher of the Year and one of my children's favorite teachers. So good, great event. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, two things. I also attended Chief Albright's swearing-in ceremony today, as with Bobby representing the district. We both sit on the 2x2. Given the board's concurrence, I would really like to ask to have a report that ties together what we as a school district are doing collectively to address the issues of social emotional well-being in our students. Again, with the start of this year, it is obvious that the requirements are growing, and yet the resources are not commensurate because of our state's inaction in appropriately addressing the financial needs of the district to serve children. So I would request to have a report that pulls it all together. We've gotten lots of pieces of things at different times, but I'd like to have a report that says, given today's reality, this is how we're maximizing our effort with all of our different resources to address the needs of our children.
Okay, good. Sounds good. Took note on that one. Okay, just a couple of things I wanted to bring up. First, I want to thank all of the staff and the teachers and all around the district on the startup of our school year, the hard work. getting this big engine back up running again for another school year. Not really. Yeah, a couple of weeks it did. It took a little recess, a couple of weeks, but a lot of folks don't understand what it really starts to start the engine back up and educating 60-something thousand kids. So I just want to thank everybody for that. I'm looking forward to having a 2x2 in a long time with the city of Sacramento, Mr. Steinberg, and so we're looking forward to that. Well, I guess a couple of weeks. Yeah, keep our fingers crossed that that'll happen down there. Yeah, it'll stay. That's a pretty active city up there. You never know sometimes what's going on. So with that, I'll adjourn the meeting at 2000 hours. Thank you.